Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
All right, welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And I am behind the mic with two of the content creators connecting to the Detroit is Different podcast network. They've been doing this for a little bit of time. They have their own perspectives. They have a lot to say. I met them through Piper Carter, and when we had the chance to be on Piper's episode, we definitely got into like a good back and forth of perspective where I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is something that I have not seen from a woman's point of view, and definitely from a stance of LGBTQ rights. Both of them dynamic, both of them creative, and then they have like one of the most unique, like big sister, little sister friendships that you'll ever witness. So that exchange alone is really cool. Sharron and Nicole. Yeah. Sharron, Nicole, how y'all feeling?
Good. Really good.
Okay, all right, and they were just getting into like big sister, little sister before this, and that's why I like that laugh is always with Nicole. Nicole's like one of the most affable, beautiful personalities when it comes to just laughing, and somebody you can meet, but also very serious about what she does in reference to social justice. And that is always something that sometimes people even question me and Piper about. It's like, man, you guys joke around so much sometimes, but then you can get real serious, and it's like, okay, it's not necessarily all work and no play, or work hard, play hard. It's just, you know, we enjoy to laugh, but enjoying to laugh doesn't supersede the fact that you want to find justice in a world that definitely deserves to have justice for everybody. You know, it's just a layer of it all. But Detroit is Different starts with the story of Detroit for you all. So I'm gonna go Sharron first, because big kids get to go.
There we go. Oh, y'all
for little kids. I'm starting already. Nicole feels we're ageist. Ageist.
Yes.
So we're gonna kick off. Sharron, your family in Detroit. How did you all come to Detroit? What neighborhood? Are you like a first, second, third generation Detroiter? What's your Detroit story?
Let's see. So my grandmother's family came up from Alabama. My grandfather, this is on my mother's side. My grandfather's family, we have a lot of family in Ohio, mostly like Columbus. We have land down there called the American Mission. It's a long story with that, but my grandmother and my grandfather met here.
Okay.
So then my mother was born here with my uncle, and then of course I was born here. My father was actually born in Mississippi. He couldn't read or write, so he migrated up here to get one of the factory jobs. He actually worked at Chrysler, where he retired from, but he couldn't read or write. It was like, you know, he could only wear shoes on Sunday. You know, he worked the farm with his grandfather. So,
and it's unique that both those states, as Detroit is full of people from 3 primary states when it comes to the Great Migration of Black people. It's Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia.
Yep.
So in these Detroit is Different conversations, when I run across families such as my own and my mom's family, kind of like with ties to Florida along with Georgia, it's just unique.
Yeah. But
Mississippi and Alabama. Did you go down to Alabama as a kid?
Not to see my family. I did go to Alabama. When I was younger, I went to Selma. Actually walked across the bridge, and I didn't realize what I was doing because I didn't know.
So you were doing it actually in honor of it, but you were just like in the family traditions of, we're taking the child to be a part of this.
Well, I went with a friend of mine. A friend of mine hit me up. I think I was like 15, 16. And she said, my aunt we're driving down to Alabama, and they rented me and my cousin a car. Can you go? I said, well, let me ask my mother. So I asked my mother, her aunt talked to my mother, and they ended up letting me go. So we drove, like her aunt and her grandmother drove. And then the 3 of us, they had rented us a car, so we followed them there. So my family actually never took me to Alabama nor Mississippi. I've never been to Mississippi. but I do know the stories that were passed from my father to Mississippi, from Mississippi.
Okay. Now, when we get a little bit into like your father's story, because he made the migration a lot later than most people.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure people were probably calling your dad country and all types of stuff.
Yeah, he was. He was. My dad was interesting, and I didn't meet my father till I was 9. Pure accident. Pure accident. It wasn't intended for me to meet my father, but I'm a spitting image of him. So my father's cousin was married to my mother's cousin, and they had a function, and I ran into my father there, and it was kind of like we both looked like, okay, what's going on? So I met my father when I was 9, and I saw him off and on throughout the years, but he was an interesting guy. He was great to me, but I heard other stories about my father from other people's perspective. He was an interesting guy,
Okay. Now your mom, what was her personality like? And what's her vibe? What's her style? What do you remember?
Okay. My mother's interesting. My mother is very headstrong. I will say this about my mother. My mother has always taught me about black and white issues. A lot of things that she talked to me about a long time ago actually are manifesting today. In terms of like culture and relationships between black people and white people and things like that. My mother was the kind of person that I'll be honest, she called white people white devils, and I was always brought up to not trust them, and that anytime they infiltrated a certain culture or something, they've always torn it apart, used it for their own benefit and things like that. So she was very stuck in those ways. And I think that helped me in some instances as far as just looking at people and not being as open and trustworthy, but making people earn my trust. And I think I'm very good with that now. But at the same time, everybody isn't bad. You have bad apples in every bunch. So to try to navigate through that is kind of interesting. When that's what has been embedded in you for so long. She also don't like LGBT people. So to be an LGBT person and to listen to the things that she said, I think that fuels my activism in the LGBT world, because a lot of the things that I heard from her and a lot of the attitude that she has towards the community, I feel like that's how you feel about me. And that's not who I am. So it's very important for me to dispel that. So I think the things that she said and the way that she feels really fuels me, because I know that it's not true, and it's my job, I feel like, to try to make people see us differently.
Now, your mother and her understanding, what was her work? What was she doing? Like, do you think that maybe her friends or her social circle had something to do with her perspectives?
I think my mother was just born in the 40s. My mother's in her 70s now. And when you talk to people during that time, there are not a lot of people who, from my perspective, are very open-minded toward things that are not traditional. I also have a theory, and I feel like, I've never talked to my mother about this or have any inkling of an idea that this pertains to her, but people who have such a problem with people that have nothing to do with you, I feel like it's because you're battling something that's within you that you just haven't sorted out yet. Because I don't understand why you are so hateful towards a certain group of people that have nothing to do with you, that are not hurting you or anything like that. It's just about who they choose to love. Like, why does that bother you so much? Is it because you couldn't live your truth? I don't know.
Now, in that, the being 70, 40s, as you talk about, that's pivotal times in race relations. I even tell some of the people I know that work in the mayor's office. I was at a function the other day, and a white lady was talking to the white guy that I knew. He was like, this feels like reverse racism. I was like, well... I don't necessarily know if I believe that that's possible, but it could be under some premises, and if it would ever happen in the city, Detroit would, because they want to stick it to your heart sometimes. And I know just that perspective of certain ways to look at race. If you're from a certain generation, it's not even the olive branch to, as you say, open up and open the perspective. And I have people in my family that feel just as staunch and strongly against having the susceptibility of looking at white people with strong levels of distrust. Do you think that that era that she was born in has a whole lot to do with that? Did your mom interpret different things like the rebellion in '67 and things that her family went through, where it just is still on her heart so much that it's not even a way to look at life racially and say to herself like, let's look at these people as individuals and not scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, and like my grandmother, her mother, so my mother grew up in the Jeffrey Projects. And, you know, my grandmother was a domestic worker. She worked for a pretty wealthy couple, and they owned like factories or something, and my grandmother was a domestic worker in their house. You know, so even as I get older and I think back on things, you know, I was always raised to the point where kids don't be in the room with grown people talking. What happens in the house stays in the house.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of things that I heard that I didn't really, you know, comprehend back then.
That you couldn't piece together.
Right.
And then as a child.
Right. But now,
you definitely didn't have the freedom to say, okay, can you please expand on this?
Yeah, no, I would have got hit. But, you know, but looking back on it now, it makes me wonder some things. And I think people are products of their circumstances and products of their environment. And, you know, my grandmother lived through the Depression. And my mother saw what her mother went through. My grandfather was married to my grandmother, and he left his family. You know, so I'm pretty sure a lot of the attitude that my mother has comes from that. You know, the things that happened in her life. And, you know, my mother also had me when she was 33. I put a status up on Facebook the other day that said I was a fighter since conception. My mother, one of her tubes were blocked, and the other one was partially blocked, and yet here I am. You know what I'm saying? So my mother said all the time, if I would have known that I was going to have a child, the choices that I had made would have been different because I would have prepared for my child. You know, I think that my mother, in some instances, the things that happened in her life affected her. And she never felt that she was going to be responsible for another person. You know, and so all of that time later, you know, here it is that you are responsible for another person. And I don't think that my mother doesn't love me. I know that she loves me. She just doesn't love me in a way that is good for me. You know, she did grow up in a time where homosexuality was an issue. It was not talked about. They, you know, that's not what you do. And especially being the type of lesbian that I am, like, that's just a totally taboo, no. And you hear the things like, you're going to go to hell, nobody's going to talk to you, you know, this, that, and the other. One of the things that I try to do now, because a lot of people will talk to me about their children being homosexual and things like that, I try to make them understand that, one, this has nothing to do with you, and two, you always want to be a supportive factor to your child, because if not, they're going to go and seek support from somewhere else, and it might not be healthy support. I think a lot of times when people have issues with people who are homosexual, part of the LGBT community, I think it's because of what they feel. And I also think when you have parents who have issues with their children, it's because they feel as if they've done something wrong or how they're going to be viewed because of that. And honestly, it doesn't have anything to do with that. That's one of the issues with me. That is the issue. One of the biggest issues with me and my mother is my sexuality.
And I could only take in that perspective and empathize from what I've seen as more of the traditional upbringing of that time and that era of black people. But my mother, even to myself and my sister, you know, she had in her 30s too, which today is very commonplace. But when your mother had you at 33, like, that was looked at definitely different. And also, like, how that feels of having a child and your first child at that age, especially now as you get into more with women's rights and so much in women's rights and advocating for women to speak up, is fighting past the socialization of women being viewed as objects all the time, especially in that era. So your mom's take even on what family is, what motherhood is. I can only imagine what that was like in being 33.
I think my mother's thing was survival. It was just survival. You know, she didn't graduate high school either. And like I said, she mentioned a lot that if I would have known that I was going to have a child, I would have done things differently. I would have finished school. I would have done things differently. But she just felt like I just needed to do what I needed to do to survive. And I think that because of that, I think she wanted better for me. She just wasn't in a position to be better, and she didn't know how to do it. And I think that kind of smothered me, because it was like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. And then there's that only child thing. I didn't have anybody else for her to focus on.
And let's talk a little bit about that, as survival mode is definitely a perspective, a state of mind in the black community that is very perfect. Now, being that you grew up in a home where a mom embraced a lot of that, do you think that, this is more so my philosophical question, do you think that the survival mode is as much survival as it is just the scarcity to even step back into the plan? Because some of the tough thing about being in survival mode is that you never really have, you never allow yourself the time to sit back, walk away, kind of look at all of the pieces, and then say, all right, this is how I want to move forward. And then the person in survival mode is going to turn and tell you, like, look, dude, I don't got time to be sitting down and planning it because I got to survive.
I got to do what I got to do.
So do you think that is a mentality that can be changed through the mind, or is that only a mentality that can be changed due to other outside factors?
I think it's a mentality of the mind. That's how I grew up. I grew up not far from the Jeffrey Projects. Actually, I grew up in the Jeffrey Projects, were still there. I grew up with the gangs and the people on crack and things like that. Like, I walk outside, that's what I saw. And there are people that I grew up with that still have that mentality. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have a survivor mentality too. But here's the difference. I decided to do things differently because I did not want to end up that way. I took myself out of those situations and I went places. Like, I would get on the bus and I would ride. I would start, I grew up on soul food, greens. It was, God, like turnips and mustards every damn Sunday. You know what I'm saying?
Hilarious.
Fried chicken,
And
neck bones.
like cornbread.
Right, hot water cornbread. And I appreciate the soul food. I do, because I went to a thing the other night with the Caribbean community, and they had a panel about what foods remind you of growing up, what smells remind you of growing up, and I had never heard anybody talk about that, and it made me feel kind of connected with them. But I appreciate that side of me, and I still eat it. But then I also decided to meet people who were outside of my neighborhood, go to places that were outside of my neighborhood, indulge in things that were, different than what I was used to, and that made me want to be able to be, different and do more. I don't regret where I grew up. I love where I grew up. I was actually over there the other day still talking to people. But I also know that there are other things that I can do. That's not where it stops for me. I like to travel the country. I like to go, I'm planning on traveling the world and meeting people and things like that. It's a mindset.
Yeah, and that mindset is so tough in our community because the survival perspective is so prevalent. Like in so many black communities, and before you even plan it, like I tell people every day, it's like you can go down to Frank Murphy Hall of Justice, any day of the week. You can, as an American citizen, sit in the back of the courtroom and see generally black man after black man after black man after black man after black man taking guilty plea for God knows what. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure a lot of their mentalities is like, well, I got to do this and I got to and my friend I had a conversation with today. She is building a relationship with a guy that's fresh out, or for people that are listening, that is someone that is out of prison. Fresh out is the term that we use. And like real fresh out, like I'm talking about like a week. And he's like, I got to get on my feet. I got to do this and I got to do that. And I was like, well, you need to sit and share with him before he puts all of this pressure back on himself. To get back in survival mode. To try to encourage him to like, hey man, work the plan. Because if not, the plan will work you. And recidivism continues to happen, and this chain is never broken.
Well, this is what the problem is. I feel like we have a lot of traumatic people just running around not dealing with the healing that has happened in their own lives, in their own families, in our community, and then also like in our DNA and who we are as people. Our historical trauma is so in depth, and so when you first get out of trauma, you going through crisis, you don't know what to do, where to go. Going into the prison or jail and coming out is traumatic. Like, there's so many things that people just overlook. So for me, when I hear a young man say, I gotta do this, not only is that a survival method, but that's also to get away from this trauma from the past. So a lot of people will try to make themselves more busy and try to, navigate these, because being quiet, like if it's quiet at night, most of the people I work with, they be like, I can't sleep at night. Because people who are used to being in that mentality, that's something that is normal to them. And then when they not having that, then that's when they fear the future.
And Nicole just touched on something I definitely agree.
Yeah.
It's like chaos. Like there are certain, I don't know if you all ever had like a fish tank or whatever, but it's certain fish that need a certain amount of algae and dirt to just survive, because it's like, like I grew up in this neighborhood, and like I'm certain you, like I always joke, like I don't like being out of like 5 miles away from a U-Bar fry place, because it's like it's the community, right? It's the community that I'm used to. So like if I'm in a suburban cul-de-sac, I'm thinking like, damn, I go outside and the cops may stop me and I could get murdered out here or something. Like I could say hi to the white neighbor across the street and she could be like, hey, that guy was trying to rob me. And they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's certain things in American lifestyles that would be labeled as dysfunction that I understand from being in the hood for so long, of knowing how to even navigate and making sense out of just different things of like, somebody walks in the store and they're singing and dancing and they smell like God knows what. You know how to, it's like, okay, I know how to acknowledge him, where it's not brushing them off, but it's also not about to engage in like some long discussion and not necessarily making them feel crazy. Even though, God knows mentally what's going on in our community, definitely does not embrace a lot of the mental health. And for some reasons it's justifiable. As most of the mental health profession, and I don't know if most people know this, but most of the mental health profession was built and designed upon the idea of defining what race was and justifying the fact that black people can be enslaved. So like some of the natural apprehensions against certain things like mental health come from roots of good places. But the same way that the black community has embraced the church, I think we can also embrace some of the positivity from psychiatry, psychology, and mental health tools and everything too, to function through things. And now we're engaging. Nicole, same questions for you. Your family and your ties to Detroit. What's your Detroit story? Are you a first, second, third generation?
So, Sharron and I actually have a lot of similarities. I'm actually a second generation.
Okay.
So my mother and father are both from the South. So my mother lived in Helena, Arkansas, and my father lived in DeKalb, Texas. He lived there his whole life.
And those are definitely that Southwest region. You don't get a lot of people from that region coming up to Detroit. Now I don't know why, but it's not a lot of folks like that. Like Texans in Detroit. It's a lot of Detroiters.
It's more Detroiters than Texans.
Like you go to Atlanta, like people from Georgia and Detroit, it's like, but yeah, like that Southwest region is generally not a lot of them. So what led them to come to Detroit?
Something different. The typical story of, my father came up so he can get a better job, a better future. So he worked for the big three. My mother came up to be with her brothers. My mother had 4 brothers,
So they came up separate?
Yes.
Okay, it wasn't like they got hitched down there and made their way. It was they came up separate.
Yeah, they came up separately.
And your dad said some smooth Southern game.
He did, though.
He was like, you looking like a mint julep.
He did, though. They met at a party. It was so cute. She was like, I met him at a party. She was like, and I told him, I already got 9 stacks saved up, so you gotta come with it. You gotta come better than that. So my daddy,
9 stacks for a woman in that era.
She was
That's real. That's rich. I mean, yeah.
I get my work ethic from my mom. My mom, like, she just barely wanted to retire at 65. My mother is 73. So I'm one of the weird millennials that has a parent that both parents are baby boomers. And it really shaped my perspective on, like, just my mother being so caring and being so loving, and she had a hard childhood, and so she came up here and she, like, dedicated her whole life to working in the hospital. She worked with a lot of Holocaust survivors. So my mom is just like, she can, cuss and do whatever, but she really, it was really inspiring.
What form of work in hospitals?
So she worked at the ER. She was a medical lab technician, different things like that. So she actually have a lot of stories about people from Motown coming into the hospital. So that was kind of interesting. And she worked for also Dr. Coleman and Young, his brother, which was a doctor. So that was the whole interesting conversation we had about that.
Now, what was it like growing up as a kid with parents that are like so much older than your friends' parents?
You know,
and then in the black community, your friends' parents may be 15. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, your mom in the club with us. Your mom would never come to the club with us. What was that like?
It was interesting. I mean, I couldn't really tell that much of a difference because my mom, like your mom, my mom was 38 when she had me. So it was, I mean, you could tell, like, my parents were on the outside very secretive. And I'm saying that again, very, very secretive. Like, when you said what happens in this house stays in this house, that's kind of how my parents had this, like, everything was spick and span, everything was clean. Like, it was really like the lawn had to be a certain way. It was really a lot of pressure because my other friends' parents kind of let them do a lot more. And where my parents was really strict when it came to, like, certain things. So
like, you were like that kid that, like, when you were playing with the kids in the streets, and then the mom or your friends was like, "Hey, come on in, y'all want some Kool-Aid?" It's like, "Hell yeah, I want some Kool-Aid." And you were that kid that was like, "Mom said I can't go to people's house."
Yes.
It was like, if you don't give me that cup of Kool-Aid.
to be honest, like, I grew up off of 7 Mile in that area, and
7 and what? East and West 7 Mile kind of have their own culture. You said, what you think?
No. Guessing how much you know me, which part do you think, East or West?
I have no idea. I'm going to say, okay, well, I mean, being that you say it like that, let's say West 7 Mile.
No, East 7 Mile.
Okay.
No, it's really West 7 Mile.
Okay. Okay, because I was going to say, it's different cultures, I mean, to me, you know what I'm saying?
But I had family, I spent a lot of my time as a child, though, over my cousin's house that were on the east side, and my thing is, I was the only child. Well, I am the only child.
Oh, so that's similar as well.
Yep. So, I mean, me and her relate with that because I would have to go over there, like, I mean, I had a lot of family, but they just either had to come to me or I had to come to them. So, I didn't even notice the big difference between the east side and west side till, like, people pointed it out. But it is kind of comical, but sometimes it can be very, very mean. But
very mean, hilarious. It's like, it definitely had a lot of Detroit neighborhoods kind of have their own little feel and vibe. I definitely think there are certain differences between the east side and the west side. It just is. I don't know. Like, I can give examples, but like, it's just different.
The thing about it is, like, as we were talking about, like, kind of the pain and the bad, situations and the bad mental issues and all those things. We have a lot of good things in Detroit too. Like, for instance, like, I remember, like, messing with the fire hydrant. I remember, like, jumping on mattresses. I remember, like, a lot of, like, fun stuff. Like, I remember my childhood being, like, full of love and everything like that. And when, I know we're shifting when it comes to all of these business coming into Detroit and really trying to change it from being a negative stigma, I still think, like, it's always had its beauty, and we don't need for these corporations or people not from the city to come in and tell us our city's beautiful. You know, and so it's really like it's a lot of pain, like and a lot of issues, but at the same time, like, you know, Detroit is beautiful.
Okay, high school. What high school did you go to?
So the 9th grade, I went to High School of Commerce and Business Administration. That is the longest title in the world. That school ended up folding. It was off of 8 Mile. So from 10th to 12th grade, I went to Detroit Performing Arts High School.
Okay, so you went to DSA.
Yeah.
All right, and man, Commerce. Yeah, I do remember when Commerce folded. Like folded, like if people are listening, and many schools have quote unquote folded. What was it like going to a school as it closed down? As so many high schools have changed. When I was young, it was about 30 high schools, like high schools, not like one building with like 7 different academies where it's like, hey, your class is an academy, so technically it's still 50 schools in Detroit Public Schools. It was like, no, straight up. You know, like you would take the Dexter bus and you would know, like, as you're getting closer to different schools, because different kids would get on the bus.
Yes.
And you'd be like, oh, man, here we go.
Yeah.
Murray Wright.
Yeah. Murray.
Where did you go?
Northwestern.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
So-
that's why you talking junk about Murray.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
You went Murray Wright?
Yeah, I went to Cass for the first 2 years.
And finished at Murray Wright?
Yeah, I played basketball at Cass, tore my ACL. Of course, you got to keep your grade point up, but I couldn't because I tore my ACL. I want to say something though, because it was the dean of students at Cass. His name was Henry Williams. You know, he told me that I would never be anything.
Ain't that
Yeah, Henry Williams, big old, big fat dude. I'm sorry I said the word fat, but he was. Big dude named Henry Williams, and he was the dean of students. And I remember being in his office, and he looked me in my face, and he said, "You'll never be anything." So, whatever. But I left there. I went to
Finished at
Murray,
Murray Wright.
graduated in the top 10% of my class, got accepted to Eastern Michigan University first semester of my senior year. Could have graduated a year earlier. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, I went to Murray.
There we go. I'm with Murray.
The Murray
I
card.
never Murray Wright was like one of those like Murray Wright was one of those schools that, because you know you had the freedoms over there.
I stayed in the
definitely.
Freedoms. I stayed in the Freedoms. I stayed in the Freedoms. I did. I grew up in the Freedoms, yo.
The Freedom Folk was like the longest arm of folk ever. He was like, whoa, riding your bike over there, you'd be like, oh, you hit the wrong corner. It's like let's see if we can really get this 12 speeds going. Let's see if we can really get up to 12 speed. It'd be like, you go to Roscoe's Arcade at the wrong time. You'd be like, oh, Lord Jesus, please let me get out of here safe. But the Freedoms and the Jeffs. But Murray was one of those schools that I think, in some ways, like King, like a neighborhood school that still had, like, if you just really wanted to focus and just do studies, you could, like, probably do studies. It wasn't, like, as much as, like, a Northwestern or a Central where everything kind of had a little bit more of a street edge and more gang culture, though it was existing in Murray. And then really good sports culture, too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we was slamming.
Oh, yeah.
I played basketball at Murray. If you wanted to do good at Murray, you had the opportunity to do so. That was one of the best things I think that happened to me was ending up at Murray. Yeah, I was taking college credits. Whatever I needed to do and wanted to do, they encouraged and supported.
As they say, if it ain't Murray, it ain't right.
There you go. Yeah. Shout out to Murray.
And DSA, did you go to the new DSA or the DSA down the street from you?
Hell no, I ain't go to the new card.
You went to the DSA down the street from Murray. That's the original one.
Yes.
That was like fame for real.
Yeah, so why y'all all acting like I'm all young and stuff? I went to that should let you know that I'm not
the old Murray Wright building. That's what it was. That's what it was.
It was, you know, and they actually moved the year after I graduated. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
because
so you had Dr. She had been Dr. Cotton. Well, yeah, she was Dr. Cotton by then. Yep.
Shout out to Dr. Cotton. You are amazing.
Yeah, Dr. Cotton was amazing. I mean, the vision for DSA was a vision of Dr. Cotton. That's what's up. Shout out my cousin now that's the principal there, Myra Reynolds, and I think a lot of stuff will fall in place. But now it's somebody that is an artist because that's the other thing. Dr. Cotton is so dramatic that she's somebody I got to get on Detroit is different one of these days. Even though I know she's down, we got to figure that out. But just so dramatic and so. I mean, that whole school was a different feel because my sister graduated DSA.
Oh, okay.
So I saw like kind of the inception of what the idea was, because it was like fame for Detroit.
It was that is how I always describe it as fame in Detroit. That is exactly the same thing. I mean, it was just, to me, if you weren't even a good artist, like, you were gonna lead or being a great artist, because art was like during our whole day. Like, people don't understand how beautiful of an experience. Like, we would leave wherever we coming from on a bus or wherever, and we would leave all this stuff, and then inside.
Murray Wright be bullying you guys.
No, some of them would. I was gonna say that.
We can't go to that store.
We said the damn Murray Wright kids. He's like, hell no. But yeah, a lot of our young men that identified as gay would get targeted by your comrades. And
I can see that. Now DSA was in DSA was because, like, I remember, just going to some of this stuff. My sister, the LGBTQ community was always very prevalent at DSA.
Yes.
So in an era where people definitely didn't recognize that in that journey, but that school was just so different.
Yes.
For a time then. So I can only imagine what it's like now, because I go into most schools now, and it's a different feel around what what sexuality is, identifying with sexuality. Like, it's just unique. It's completely different. Because straight up, I remember at Northwestern, if you were a gay guy, and I mean, to this day, you had hands. Like, those were some of the best fighters ever. I was at this one event for a talent show at Wayne State, and this guy just over the top, high heels, like, but I've known him from Northwestern, and like some guys were making fun of him. I was like, oh, and I told my friend, I'm like, watch this, like, I mean, like, fight attitude, always having that chip on their shoulder. It took a lot of courage to be that guy wearing lipstick at Northwestern, because you knew what you were about to get into every day. Where it's like, oh yeah, he got hands. So it's like, you can joke about him if you want, but to have to basically walk in the doors of the school knowing you're going to get into a fight every other day is a different type of reality.
That's important. I don't think the kids today realize that, and I talk about that all the time. Like, it's easier, not all the time. It's still bullying and stuff like that, and I think social media plays a big part in that. But for some of these spaces where you find a big level of comfort, like, I think sometimes they forget about the people who sacrificed for you to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it like you said, like, that takes a tremendous amount of courage to know, I'm about to go in here and be myself. I don't give a shit what y'all say. Unapologetically, this is me. I know I'm about to get into it, but damn it, I'm about to be me. You know what I'm saying? That's huge, especially back during that time, because, like, we were, it was a lot of lesbians, but we damn sure wasn't going to prom with each other, and having girlfriends and stuff. We hid all of that. You know what I'm saying? But now it's accepted, and now the schools are supposed to respect you and support you. And I get upset sometimes, because I think with the younger people, they want this instant gratification to feel like you're owed something. And unfortunately, I don't feel like we have those generational conversations to where you can appreciate people who sacrifice for you to be able to get to the point that you are.
I think race is kind of like that too, because I can only imagine what some of the stuff, my great uncle, my granddad, great granddad had to go through just existing. Like, the classic Emmett Till case. And it's always in the back of my mind and prevalent. It's nothing scarier to me than me being in a space and a white woman claiming I did something to her in any form, and I did not. So it's such a level of fear that I can't even really put into words of, like, You know, it's like, you know, that proximity. It's some, you know, it's like I have to have true comfortability with you, with some of my white women friends, but white women strangers, ain't probably nothing scarier than that. Nothing scarier than that for me, and just as a black man, because it's like I don't need any of that on my collar at all, because I don't think nobody's believing me in reference to that.
So imagine like, and so I want people to understand that like when you are a black woman or you're LGBT, you have so many other people that you're afraid of being in contact with. So for me, sometimes I'm in fear of being around white men or white police officers. Then sometimes there's some white women who use their authority against me. Or a black man, like, because I'm a survivor, what if this and this and this happens? So we live like in the intersection of all of the margins. Like we have to navigate so many different spaces, and that's why I think the hashtag Black Girl Magic is out there, because people don't understand like code switching and having to, you know, have somebody put you in a box, but you have all these layers, and it becomes so heavy sometimes that you just gotta say screw it and just like live the best way you can. But I just wanted to talk about that because that's like one perspective. Like you are like, how often are you gonna be like away or in a close space with a white woman? Not very well.
I could go into an office building like elevator. You know what I'm saying? Definitely police officer. That's one of those things. So like elevator, possibly walking down the street, possibly waiting to get seated at a restaurant. You know, like these are things that just is prevalent in my mind because like the Emmett Till case is like reckless eyeballing. Yeah, you can get murdered for that, which is basically like black guy looking at white woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? So things like that are prevalent in my mind, and I definitely look to empathize with more and more of a woman's perspective because I do think that it's other layers of what do they call migressions or microaggressions that the woman deals with in more proximity. So it may not be as physical and as immediate. Because like most of my fears would be physical and immediate. It could be passive aggressive and over a period of a career that a woman may deal with stuff. Unlike what I would face, and not saying like one is worse or
right. Because I was about to say on behalf of you, like let's say one of those things did happen, you would probably have a lot more consequence with anything. You get what I'm saying? So as us, like our racism in our spaces or navigating those spaces might have to be maybe a little bit more, but I feel like these conversations are so important for women and men to have, especially in the black community, because sometimes we clash and we talk about it's like the oppression Olympics amongst the black woman and black man. And so you have all these dynamics of people like, oh, my trauma is worse than yours, my trauma is this, and we're not saying that, but that's the way we're moving. So that was helpful, the perspective you gave to me. Like, no, I think about that all the time.
Definitely. It's like, you know, and I mean, as we grow older, and then even with society, like, even being around a child can be very, as a man, you know, grown man, it's like, I have to have a certain connection with the parents of that child, both parents of that child, and permission, and then a relationship with that child, and then even under that proximity, it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just different. You know, technically, probably more like a group situation. You know what I mean? It's a couple different things where I'm cognizant of like, okay, you know, I need to be thinking in reference to the optics of this and what possibly could steer, you know, one way or the other. And it can be like the oppression Olympics. I'm not necessarily trying to earn stripes, and that's what I love talking to both of you all, because you all always add a different perspective of what I haven't seen in reference to things, like even with what you said, like those different boxes. And I'm completely humbled by so much of what women go through, because even more so than anything, I have that strong belief that a lot of women have been socialized not to speak up, period. Just in the whole world of women are socialized to be objects, more so than my whole life I was encouraged to speak up, to say what I felt, to kind of do what I felt like, to pursue what's happening Whereas that socialization of a woman is like, you know, like I remember, and I don't think it's out of. It's kind of like what Sharron said. I don't think it's out of a place of. I don't think it's out of a place of like to put down or shame. It's not malicious.
Mm-hmm.
But people are saying like, hey, you're a lady, you're supposed to do this. Hey, you're a lady, you're supposed to do this. Hey, you're a lady, you're supposed to do this.
Right, so imagine...
The hey, you're a man is like, do what you want to do. Make a plan and execute.
Yeah.
Speak up when you know, fight for what you want. Like, it's like a whole nother set of like everything in life, whereas everything with like, hey, you're a lady, it's like, do all you can basically so you can accompany a man that did what he wants.
And then I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm totally in the middle of that. And what you said about the kids, because of how people think about LGBT, especially me, you know, not presenting as feminine, and it's kind of weird because I'm not the lady.
Yeah.
You know, so I worry about the black men that try to fight me too because I don't present the way that they want, and I worry about, you know, what people think when they. I love kids. I work with kids. I'm great with kids. You know, but I have heard that gay people are molesters. Who said that? Never will I touch a child.
I do think that that's another reality in that work, that there are many people. All right, first off, molestation is rampant in American culture.
Right.
Possibly human civilization culture.
It has nothing to do with sexual orientation.
But there are oftentimes many people, especially kind of in our community, that you know, that have been molested, identify with the LGBTQ community, age in years, identify back with heterosexuality, and get in church and identify that, like, okay, molestation led me to homosexuality. Now that's a story that is just been told often, and I'm sure you've heard that story, and it's prevalent. You know, now is this story, the validity of the story, the statistics of the story, is this a story that is propagated through different church institutions and people that are from that? I don't have the data on it, but I know that story is prevalent and it's existing in society.
I think for some people it's easier to say that. It's easier to say that. I don't think that it may be true for some. I don't know.
I was the person that said that.
A long time ago. I like women because I like women.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with. I haven't had a bad relationship or abusive relationship with men. I know some great guys. I just didn't want to sleep with them. Like, God, like some of them I still wish I could hook them up. Like, they're really good dudes. You know what I'm saying? But none of that had anything to do with what I chose to do. I think some people, because my mother asked me, what happened to you? And it would have been easy to say, well, such and such happened, and, you know, this is why. That's easier to accept, other than, no, this is just who I am. So I don't know everybody's personal story, but I really don't want, it bothers me that people say
story exists.
This is why I'm part of this community. I don't believe that that's true.
But on the flip side, as somebody with a different perspective, me saying that I was that person, like my coming out story was pretty bad when it came to telling my mother. I had just, it was maybe in my sophomore year of college, but as a person who almost, I was like, dang, do Kari know me? Like, you said a lot, like, you know, she was molested, she this, she that, I'm like, wow, but it's true though, like, I went through child sexual abuse, and I went through other things in my life, and then I came out to my mother, and you know, it kind of like pushed me back in the closet. I had came out, and I was like out as far as in my like community or in my school, like at the age around 16, 17. So I came out pretty early, and just having to navigate that, you know, I had a supportive school like DSA. you know. And then when I graduated and went to Michigan State, it was kind of like, okay, you know, it was still like, I still felt comfortable who I was. But when I told my mother, like, I did try so hard to eventually, like, try to live by what my mama wanted. And once I let that go and started loving myself, I saw that you can't pray it away. You can't do any of that. So I think you need to hear people who have struggled with trying to go back, quote unquote, being straight, and then realizing, like, there's nothing I can do. Like, whose life am I trying to live, mine or for my mother? You know, so when I finally realized, like, you know, I can love God, I can be spiritual, but I also am in the LGBT community, and I can be both. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about putting people, like, feeling like they have to fulfill these things. And it previously goes back to my parents being baby boomers, because they were very traditional. So I break all the norms of what my mom. Sometimes my mom, I know her high blood pressure, she got a machine on her bed, and I'm just like, I know your heart is racing, like, just putting up with me, because, you know, I do have the privilege of being able to be out and say what I want, do what I want, because of what my parents and both of your parents have done. You know, because that Emmett Till story is in my head. Like, you know, my mom would say, you know, it was just her and her brothers had to walk down the street, and she remembered one day, it was during Emmett Till or after Emmett Till, and everybody had their head down extra low. I was like, what you mean down extra low? She said, if a white person walks by you, you have to put your head down and say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I couldn't believe it. Like, she tell me about water fountains. You know, she actually, when she first got on the bus to Cincinnati, my mom said, you know, my mom is very fair skinned, and so she can pass. So my mother went into this train station to go visit her aunt, because my grandmother was sick. And she said that she was sitting over in an area, she went to the fountain, she sat back, and another black woman was looking at her like, what are you doing? And she didn't comprehend it. She was like, oh, this is really nice. So then when she got on a bus, she just kind of went somewhere, so everybody was kind of looking at her. And so then she saw that they said, like, colors only. And to know that that's not, like, too far away, like, that's my mother.
It's so close, you know, like, it is so many different codes. I mean, it's even hood codes, but it's so many different codes to live by that generation had.
Yes.
And that's where, like, I look at both of you and the work that you all do, and really reaching out to a lot of people that need the support and providing tools, because that's the strength to me of, like, as I've said, and I've talked to counselors myself just about different things, and I'm doing, my mind is, God knows, it's all over the place. My presence of mind can be a million and one places. So it helps because I've been given tools through counseling to deal in different situations. And I believe that the work you all provide, you're giving tools to people where it's relatable, because now they see you, and they're not like, it's not like, you know, a counselor walking in with a thick sweater and a cup of coffee where it's like, oh shit, I'm not about to open up to this person. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I see Sharron and it's like, damn, I want them kids too. And then it's like, all right, they can talk, y'all can have a conversation about the kids for like 15 minutes, and then it's like, all right, so what you going through? And it's like, all right, this is what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm at a job. I ain't came out to nobody at my job, but my friend just tagged me on my Facebook post, what I'm gonna deal with. And it's like, okay, because I think that alone with the work you all do is so dope. And let's talk a little bit about the work you all do in supporting people in their journeys.
I currently keep checking my phone because I'm on call. So what that means is I work for an organization called Wayne County Safe Program, and so we help all the sexual assault survivors in Wayne County. And so I literally have a pager on my phone, because I do have an old school pager, by the way. They gave us one. You still got one. But, you know, the pager goes off, and then we have an hour to get to the hospital and to help a sexual assault survivor, you know, through their healing process and get a rape kit. So that's one little bitty part of my job.
Now, when we talk about sexual assault, it's extremely prevalent. Domestic violence is so prevalent. I mean, I would urge the same, you know, you can go to the Wayne County building. And I want to say, I don't even know what Florida is, probably like 8th floor and go to any of those courtrooms or go to the basement and look at all the every day, you'll see a basement full of women getting PPOs against some guy. I mean, there's a couple guys getting PPOs, but I'd say it's probably every day about 250 to 600 women getting restraining orders.
I used to work in the Detroit Police Department in Oakland County and downtown at the PPO office. So, one of the things is you're definitely correct. Like, just doing that work, I would sometimes see the same woman. The woman would come in because the average woman tries to escape their abusive relationship at least 6 to 7 times before they leave. So it was another type of level of you really had to take care of yourself, because it was another type of level of hopelessness sometimes, because each time I would see the woman, she'd get worse and worse and worse. But I knew the resilience of those women and those men, because I saw a lot of LGBT people in those arenas that are men and women. But yet, like, once you start to really look at the resilience, like, they just need like a push. They need a gentle reminder of how wonderful they are. Like, they know what they need to do. It's just like, I look at survivors when they come in the hospital, wherever they come, like, this person already has all the tools they need to be the best person they could be. Like, I just have to supply them with, here, do you have a number? Like, let's call this number. Let's do this together. Let's work together. And when I look at it from that perspective, it's not as heavy. It feels like good, because I know this person is going to find out how they need and what they need to do to heal.
Now, in this, it's like any form of counseling. How do you all have your balance? How do you all still have your cup runneth over? Because some of the things you're touching and some of the people you're interacting with are going through such traumatic experiences. Like, how do you walk back in with a clean slate where you're not carrying that with you? As, like, even just some of the teachers I know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, kids walk in and it's like, hey, we ain't had no food all week. It's like, damn, dude, this is gonna mess with my life right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so how do you, how, when you're engaging people, going through their most vulnerable times and traumatic experiences, how are you still balancing yourselves?
For me, I have a great support system.
And can you explain a little bit about, like, how you built to develop that? Because, as you said, great support system, I don't know if a lot of people even know how to build that.
I'm very picky about my friends, and when I say friend, I really, that word means something to me.
Okay.
Most of my friends have developed over time through trials and tribulations. These are just people who we met. They weren't forced. When things happened, we just ended up being there for each other, and it just developed over time to where I can say I have on my 5 fingers, I'm gonna have a couple fingers left over that are people that are my friends, and I'm okay with that.
Now, as a, because this is the other layer of that, and it's good that you mentioned friendship as your support. As you grow older, sometimes, like, as friends, you'll really feel your friends, and then you look up and it's like, damn, I ain't talked to him in like a year and a half. But you all, how do you all continue to engage and build that?
Very consciously. I get a little flack from my friends now because I'm really busy. But like today, I went to brunch with some friends that I hadn't seen in a while. And the thing is we're always supportive, because there are times where, I didn't have much going on and they were busy. And it's like, how can I support you? I love you. When we get back together, it wasn't, oh, you think you're better than me. You act, it's never that. It's always support. And right now, like, one of the conversations that we had today was, you don't tell us everything you do. Like, we want to support you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'll be more intentional about it. I've actually heard that like 3 times today. So I think my friends have seen me at my worst, and they've seen me at my best. And for me, why I consider them the friends that I do is because they never changed. They never change, they never judge. It does not matter what I go through. They'll be honest with me and tell me, you messed up on that. You was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that. I don't have no yes men in my circle or any of that. But anytime I need them, they're there. If they're not there, it's probably because I haven't told them everything, kind of private in that regard. But the friendship is very important. I also grew up in a house with me and my mother, so I don't mind being alone. I can take myself out, and I spend time with myself, and I treat myself very well.
And can you explain a little bit of that, as you're giving me tools and the people listening tools?
Yeah, I date me.
So you're saying friendship and dating yourself.
I date myself.
What is
it depends on how I'm
do?
feeling.
Okay.
I might take myself to the spa. I love MGM and Motor City Spa.
Okay.
I might take myself to get a pedicure, manicure. I might take myself to a movie. I might take myself to a concert. I might take myself out to eat. I may go to the Eastern Market, buy a bunch of food and cook it myself and turn some music on, and you would think it was a party in my house. I have gotten to a point where I don't need a lot of people around me, and I really appreciate the quiet. You know, you mentioned earlier, growing up and where we are used to certain things. Like I was used to hearing gunshots. And it took me a really long time to be able to sit in the quiet, like you were saying, to sit in the quiet and be okay. I felt like something needed to happen. And I'm at a point now where I'm okay with the quiet. So, you know, a lot of people just need people around. I prefer to have people around of substance and quality. And it keeps a lot of mess out of my life. It keeps things consistent. And it's just very comforting to know, because, you know, I have family. I'm not really close to my family. But even like the holiday, you know, my best friend's mother died, and her fiance was at work. And we just went over there and grilled. She did her thing, I did my thing. But the comfort of knowing that we okay. We ain't even got to talk about a bunch of stuff. But we're just here, and that's okay. And I see you the next time I come back, and I'm going to check on you in between. You know, that's what's up. And when something traumatic happens, this is another measure of friendship. If I'm all out, like she getting married on the 5th, and when I tell you my nerves is bad, because her nerves is bad, it's a connection there.
Wow.
You know, so she doesn't sleep good if I'm not sleeping good. She worries about me. I don't sleep good if she's not sleeping good. I worry about, she called me first thing this morning, and I just kind of went on the couch and laid there and let her have at it. But your friends become your family. And I'm very selective about the people that I choose to let into that circle for me.
You just dropped a lot of gems on the people. I hope that y'all taking notes on those gems and those skill sets.
Yeah.
Because you all are really working with people where you need that full cup.
Yeah.
And
I had to feel
like
I was worth it.
And I'm sure that you all sometimes can see people in passing. And a lot of social justice work, I see certain people where I see their mental states where it's like, man, you're taking on so much of this. It's like, I wish you could just, it's like, it'd be so much better for the work and you if you kind of.
You gotta know when to say no. You gotta know when to say no. I say no. If I don't want to do something, I say no. And it's not to be mean. It's just, if I tell you no, I really mean it. Like, either I can't do it or I just don't want to. I don't feel like I should even owe you an explanation. I have that right.
It's good for everybody involved, though.
Yeah.
You know, learning boundaries, like you said. Like, it's good for your body, autonomy. It's good for your health, your well-being, spirit, emotional, you know. And I feel like as women, we don't feel like we can say no a lot. And, you know, I hear a lot of, especially like white women, you know, they'll say I'm sorry a lot in conversation. And, you know, I think to myself, like, why? Like, why, you know, why did we feel, and I know it goes back to, you know, sexism, racism, you know, patriarchy, all that stuff. But my thing is, you know, as women, like, the word no, like, you could be dog tired. And, like, as black women, we have this martyr mentality. We have this matriarch mentality. And so, you know, one of the things that I think of as a revolution is, like, loving myself and taking that time out. Because if we look all the way to the middle passage and after, we have been working, and it's free labor. You know, we're not used to actually taking the time to get to know ourselves. And that goes back to growing up in Detroit and actually having to be in this chaos, in this busyness. And so when I actually say, you know, screw them, screw you, whatever, I actually take that time to be silent. That is when I truly start to love myself and hear myself. How can you pour from, like you say, an empty vessel? Like, how can you help someone get to know who they are? Because if you're going through any trauma, you have to know about self-awareness. How can you help someone know who you are when you won't take the time out the day for yourself?
It's a journey, though. It's a journey to getting to the point of loving yourself. It's a journey to the point of understanding and accepting that you are worthy of good people in your life, and you can get rid of the ones that ain't good. It's okay. You don't owe them nothing. My mother was toxic to me. I don't talk to my mother. So if I cannot talk to my mother, I cannot talk to anybody who I feel is causing me damage. I had to get to a point of feeling like I was worthy to be okay. I had to get to a point of feeling like I'm okay and I'm enough to where I could take myself out. I don't need to wait on anybody to do that for me. I can treat myself good and it's okay.
Sure, I don't know if I ever told you, but after we had met and got to know each other, like, you helped me with my self-esteem, helped me with my self-worth, because I saw what you had to go through every single day. And people, and you know, when I saw her documentary on Woman and queer and racial justice, like, we had something to eat after, and I cried because, you know, I had all these stereotypes in the past about, you know, our different parts of women and lesbians and bisexual women in the community. And Sharron, like, she cut off the myths, she cut off the stereotypes, and then she let me see what it was like to enter her world. And I was like, I was about to cuss. Shoot. Shit. I'm like, I have to be having to check where I'm at. If you can put up with this shit every day and hold your head up, I don't have any reason to be trying to look at if this don't look right, do these jeans don't look right, is my hair like, you know, like that little trivial feminist bullshit, that femme bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember one time, I'll never forget, I'm not gonna try to activate or trigger you, but we went to a mall. Yeah, we went to a mall, and it was me, just before she started working in one of the county states. It was me, my daughter, and we went to Macomb Mall. And so we went into H&M, and we were there with my daughter, and we were going to get her some clothes. And this woman looked like so afraid of Sharron. Like, she was like
disgusting.
Yeah. And so she grabbed her child, and the other person, they whispered, and they like took off. And I was so angry. I had like this feeling like, you know, because that was not, but to her that was nothing new.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? She was like,
that's a common place.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it was like another layer of just like, you know, appreciation, and like, you know, we put our pants on, shoes on the same way, but the way the world looks at us is truly different.
But you know what, and I'm gonna coin this phrase. You heard it on Kari show first.
Hilarious.
Everybody's issue with me has nothing to do with me and everything to do with me. So it used to bother me. And it used to hurt me, like, damn, like, what did I do? Because, okay, I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm a lesbian, I'm a masculine, it's all of this stuff, but I'm like, I'm me, and I'm a good damn person. I have good people in my life, God is blessing me, I have great friends and people like being around me. All of that junk y'all feeling, ain't got nothing to do with me, and I'm not even going to let you affect me, or I'm not going to suck it in.
And getting to that, saying that, embracing that, it's a
journey.
It is, and it's still like consistent. Like, I definitely know my quirks. I was talking to one of our people the other day, and then you learn as you get older. You know your quirks, your triggers. You're like, okay, I already know where I'm going. And you will tell people sometimes, and then they'll be like, no, I can deal with that. And I'm like, yo, you know, like presence of mind with me. Sometimes I can get very fixated. I can be very empathetic. But then I can get in certain zones where, because my mind will be someplace else where I'm all detached. It's just been the journey of car, you know, and I kind of saw my dad do that, my granddad did that, but it's weird because it's like, wow, man, you can be so empathetic, you can be so here sometimes, and then you'll be so there. And it's like, no, this is how I am. So I will anger the hell out of you because the capability, you know what I'm saying, the capability to be here all the way is there, but also the capability to be like, you know, it's old OJ song. Your mind is here, your body's here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. You know, so like when you learn these different ideas and society around you, it's like you're growing, and then you start even embracing some of the insecurities of like, okay, why did that bother me that this person judged me like that? And it's like, why would this judgment matter? And then some of the judgment is kind of funny. It's like, okay, I can see the validity of that, but that's how I am. They're like, it don't bother me. You know what I'm saying? So it's a journey in life, and I'm glad you all share, and I'm also glad both of them are on the network with Detroit is Different. Catch Meow. You can check out their podcast every week. They have their podcast is definitely not as anybody listening to this is definitely a little bit more documentary stylish, but real cool guests exploring topics that can be artistic, but just unique perspectives about things that you all need to see. And as you all just got some tools from listening to this, you're always given tools, just naturally, because you all have a network of resources in and around the Metro Detroit area and even America that can help people that are going through things that they may not know that they're embracing. And if not you, it could be your niece, your daughter. It could be the girl across the street that you developed a friendship with, where it's like, yo, I can't tell anybody, but I'm real cool with you, but I went through this. You know, like, what is that responsibility? Now you have some tools right here that are real, because I'm also sure, and I just want you all to talk briefly about this before I get into like my closing Detroit's different questions. It's a lot of, I don't want to say like bad resources or whatever, but some of the resources, like everything that exists in America, may not necessarily be culturally balanced, where it's as like as embracing for Black folks. Mm-hmm. So can you all talk a little bit just about, you know, for that person listening, how they should go about helping in our community specifically a young person that's looking for some of these resources, because it's a lot of resources out there, but a lot's not necessarily designed from a Black point of view.
One thing is, you know, and I talk to Nicole about this all the time, there are a lot of people that want to help but just don't know how to help, and they think that it's so trivial. Yeah. God blessed us. God blessed us. God blessed us with our jobs. I mean, and I can tell you some things that was going on in my life 2 or 3 years ago. You'd be like, how are you? You know what I'm saying? But God blesses us, and He gives us these tools and these platforms that you're talking about. There was no coincidence that we walked in and we did that podcast, Piper, Mahogany, and you, and now we're here. Yeah. It's a reason for that. So what I do is I thank God for all of the opportunities that come my way, and I make sure that I'm very intentional on trying to help someone, being something for someone that I didn't have for me. It's not difficult. It could be like you said, if you see somebody outside that needs some help, then fucking help them. It doesn't have to be an organizational thing. You don't need a television crew. You don't need an audience. If it's in you to help, then you help.
Basic humanity.
Basic humanity. And that's where it starts at. People think that it's this big thing that's blown up. And it's not. I go sit and get breakfasts. I haven't done it in a while, and I need to. I will go to the Coney Island and get breakfast specials, and I will take them where the homeless people at, and I will actually sit there and talk to them. I don't need to put it on Facebook. I don't need a t-shirt or a billboard that says that I do that. It's in me to do, because everybody is of value. And once you put down your bullshit and realize you ain't perfect, you're never going to be perfect, and neither is anybody else, but I can do a little something to help you. I can say, hello, how you doing today? Sometimes if you walk past a homeless person and just speak, you validate them, you might have said they like that day, because they feel like ain't nobody paying them attention. I just say, do what's in you to do, and be resourceful. What you saying, Nicole?
Woo! That was a tough answer to follow. I felt that in my soul.
Like Reverend Sharron right here.
Reverend.
Oh man, you know, I feel the same way. Just piggybacking off what you said, it's about just genuine relationships between people. If it's one person or the next, just having that basic understanding that this person may not walk in the same shoes, but you know, I know they may be going through something. You know, so what I want to say is for the Cast Meow, what we'll do is we'll put some resources and stuff on our page. We have a Facebook page and we have an Instagram page. It says the Cast Meow. But just from doing this work for so long, like I run into anyone and I feel like I can learn something. And I think if people would get out of the titles, like a lot of people think that, you know, I'm more educated than I actually am. And I'm like, no, you know, I only got like 2 letters. I don't have 3 letters. You know, I think like it's so, if you just open up your heart and you really are working hard and you really let people know that you're there, because let me be honest with you, like working with people who've been traumatized, they see everything. They see all types of shit. So they know when you lie to them. They know when you really don't want to be there. They get all of that because that's a part of, them trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So me just being real and just seeing another person hurt, that's just where it started. Like having a conversation, like the movement of the Me Too and the, domestic violence and sexual assault movements have become so clinical. I know clinical is good. I have clinical physicians and LMSWs that I know. But my thing is like, it's nothing more than just opening up your heart in comparison to a book. You need both. You have to have a reason why you want to do the work. And then you have to be open to making mistakes. Like for us, like when we say we work with as many populations as possible, we do. And within that, like I make mistakes. Like I've accidentally, said, hello when I first started working in the Muslim community to the man when I walked, to the woman when I walked in the house. I'm like, I'm so sorry. You have to be able to say I'm sorry. You have to be able to be open to understanding if you want to work with people and give back in the community.
That's cool. Thank you. And now we get into the classic Detroit is Different questions. Make sure you listen to the Cast Me Out for more of this. As you see, it's such a unique connection for Detroit is Different. I want to thank both of you all for being a part of what we're doing with Detroit is Different. Definitely deep perspectives and takes. So the classic questions begin with this. What was your very first car? What year did you get it? And what year, make, and model was it?
My first car was a 2004 ZX2.
Okay.
And it was green.
Okay.
Emerald green.
And you got it. What year did you get it?
Like 2000. It's a
Okay.
brand new car.
A brand new. Oh, you kicked the tires.
The box, yeah.
Ain't that something? All right. Where was the first place you went when you got it?
I took my son to Popeye's Chicken.
Oh man. There we go. There we go.
She
A
is
2-piece and a biscuit.
Yeah.
She is addicted to Popeye, so she been feeling
I
it.
ain't ate it in a long
When we went to Washington,
You said she like Popeyes is not a part of the black community.
I'll be that 3-4
Popeyes is a part
with
of the
that
black
dirty
community.
7 Mile and Grass, she won.
You cannot let that Popeye.
No, I'm trying to tell you, she won't go.
Smirch.
I can't eat it no more.
She won't go.
I can't get it down my throat.
She won't go, and she gets sad every time. We went to we saw at least 5 or 6 when we just left for conference.
Yeah.
And every time she's like, oh Popeyes. And so we went to this really nice restaurant, and she got fried chicken,
That was disgusting.
and she said, I know I should have went to Popeyes. I'm like, are you serious?
I got a $30
That's
chicken
weird.
and I want some Popeyes.
I know, hey, but I know it's like sometimes you're paying for the
I
presentation.
need that fixed with that pepper curry.
But I knew not to
Exactly.
get it though. I knew not to get it.
Oh,
I saw beige
it's a struggle.
and I knew
It's a
it.
struggle.
I didn't get the
You
chicken.
gonna have to go suburban. Start going to Chicken Shack.
Oh God, not chicken. Oh, my ex used to eat that stuff.
You gonna have to Chicken Shack. Go suburban.
I make pretty good fried chicken. You know I cook a little bit, so I'm gonna stick with mine. That's about as close.
The black fried chicken. It's
Yes.
like
Yes.
the
I
Kroger
do-
bag.
I do it up. I actually got the shopping bag. I do it up. Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Keep the flour seasoned, all that good stuff, yo. Real talk.
African American culture.
Real talk. Turkey's on the side.
Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
Black culture. All right, Nicole. What was your very first car?
Chiba. I don't know what it was. Was it a 99 or 98? But it had all black tinted windows. It was all black with a spoiler.
Surprised you wasn't getting flicked
I
every
was.
2 seconds.
I was about to say that. I was. And then I had this little turbo booster in there.
She
was skirting around.
You was doing Tokyo Drift. You bought your car from like a car show.
I didn't double muffler.
Man, you have Flowmasters?
Oh.
Hey, she bought her car from like that person. I saw a dude that put rims on on my car. I saw a dude that put rims on a Ford Fusion. I was like, yo. Some people be like, hey, I don't care. It's like, I'm putting them on. I was like, hey.
The car came like
hey.
that. The car came exactly like that. And so my boyfriend at the time, my mama was looking at me like, you want that little red little suit, little cute little car? I said, no, I want the black one right there with the black tinted windows and shit like
you
that.
Was looking like Nino Brown. It was like a drug deal was going down every time you pulled
But
up.
you know what my dumb ass did? Go straight up to Michigan State and go to school. And I got flexed so many times.
Yeah, you probably got pulled over going to that Lansing 96.
Yeah.
You probably got pulled over 4 times on the way.
She done saw me drive past there, and she said, do an example of how I drive through there.
You want like this?
Yeah, no, I sit up. She
Yeah,
made a whole
she
production
like
out of
real, like an old lady.
Oh, you go on the 9, what is that, the 3 and the 9 for real? That's what's up.
it. Yes. So
She stood up, she ain't sleeping no more.
Did,
Should be
where
focused.
was the first place you drove when you got there?
school.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
So it's like
Show
basically
out.
you drove right in to get in flipped.
She went up there about the floss.
Let you know, she called me Angela Davis, so I was maybe trying to do a statement or some shit. I don't know, but
Nah, you was like, yo, I could probably put this in a rap video.
well, you know, like I had to drive through Howell and Fowlerville, and Howell is like the #1 KK in Michigan in the United States.
They flipped you too?
Yeah, they had Howell flick me. I had gotten like at least 3 or 4 speeding tickets going like at least 90 to 100.
Okay, I mean you deserve to get flicked.
No, on the freeway. But then when I would go like every
You
day.
know the speed is 75 on that. 96, but okay.
Shout out to MSP and anybody, DVD listening. Like my speed is like 70 now. I have a child. So shout out to DVD and MSP.
So
She still got a fast car.
all right, three songs. Both of you all can pick. Separate or together, it don't make a difference. But I think separate would be better. You are the DJ at the end of the Detroit fireworks at Jefferson and Woodward. And the fireworks just ended. What 3 songs are you playing?
MC Breed ain't no future in front.
I like it. I like it.
Something Stevie Wonder. I don't cry. What is it?
My eyes don't
cry
cry.
no more.
Oh my god.
Okay, so people gonna be hustling.
Yeah.
Something Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Nah, I'll do some Aretha Rocksteady.
Okay, I love that list. That list is like a classic Cardi playlist. What is yours, Nicole?
I'm thinking about this because I've just been in my head all week since I left the White House. I don't know why, but
Cheddar Duval.
Actually, no, Cheddar Boys.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay, all right, tough tone. Gonna have white people running like, pick up a can. It's tough.
I like that type of music. Like, was a lot to do with my whole little rebellious stage when I was younger. Like after my parents let me out the house. So, Tupac and Snoop Dogg's California Love.
Okay, wait. See, your age is showing. Do you mean 2 of America's Most Wanted, or do you mean
The
California
song
Love?
California Love.
Okay, that's Dre, and that's
Oh.
Pac. There we go.
Same.
Okay. No. I'm not even about to let you besmirch
I'm
my
a joke.
childhood
I'm
by
a
calling
joke.
Dre
It's
and
a joke.
Snoop the same.
It's a joke. It's a joke. But no. Yes, it is.
Snoop is amazing.
Oh. And something Shaka Khan. Yeah.
What song from Shaka?
I have to sing it. I don't know the.
How does it go?
Tell me something good. What is it?
No. Why would I play that at the
I
end?
just like that
Would it
song.
be Tell Me Something Good? That's what I was thinking. Would it be,
Me and Cardi on the same song.
would it be, I know.
I'm doing
Okay,
this on purpose.
What You Gonna Do For Me?
What you?
I love that song. Let's see, I love that
I was
song.
about to say Stephanie Mills.
See, y'all think y'all know. See, I just tricked y'all because y'all think y'all you always saw my music and y'all always saying y'all know all this music from back then and y'all was
It's
struggling.
not gonna be Sweet Thing or Everlasting Love, so it probably would be,
She don't even know. I think she's just messing with us.
I Feel For You.
Yes.
Really?
There we go.
It's
Yeah,
my
that-
favorite song.
Okay, there we go. That was like the
But I couldn't think. I was about to say, I feel for you.
that
I ain't want to put y'all through that, but y'all just asked me to.
Shouts out to you. No, for not putting us through that.
I feel. They had the rapper, the rap at the beginning. Shaka Khan was embracing.
She is fine.
Oh,
Shout out to Shaka Khan.
She was saying
Diva.
She was saying read the shit on the fan.
Oh, I loved it.
Diva.
That's something that I would do.
I want to get to that point and not give a shit.
Here we are memorizing speeches and stuff. We can just put them on the back of. I'm gonna do that Saturday. I gotta speak for the slut walk. I'm gonna put it on the fan.
You know what? It's
gonna be a slut walk in Detroit.
Yeah, next Saturday. Metro Detroit Political Action Network. It's gonna be at like 12. I think at Palmer Park again. I need to figure out where I'm going. But I think it's gonna be at Palmer Park.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a slut walk. They're at different times throughout the United States, but you know where it's stemming from. Right. Slut walk.
That's the Amber Rose thing. That's pretty much all I know.
No.
That's all I know. But
no.
okay,
It's like
so Amber Rose is she was the political figure that they tried to use it.
I wouldn't necessarily call her a political figure. I mean, she got a figure, but it ain't political.
Well, you know what I mean. But all right. So give the information on you should give the information on what the slut walk is.
I no shade to her, but you know, no, it's already out there. This has been the same thing for the last. But the slut walk originated from Ontario, Canada, and basically this policeman said that in order to stop being raped, you had to stop looking like sluts.
Okay.
So women decided across Canada and now across the United States and the world to do this slut walk, and it's basically reclaiming terrible names, atrocities, and catcalling and different things that women have to go through. I get a lot of flack, or have got a lot of flack from my black social justice activist sisters, because they say like being called a slut is almost better than what we're called, because for many long times we weren't even considered a basic human. So how can we really take on that word, and we still are like fighting those same injustices that we fought a long time ago? And I hear that. I get it, I agree, but I'm trying to be one of the young leaders in Detroit to try to like bridge the barriers. I have like these young progressive, sometimes hipster activists coming in, and then I kind of got the old school activists that are
even before you even went there, like I think if it's a pool of people here that you can reach, or that have access to reach other people that actually you can assist and know about it, maybe the premise, it's not a clan rabbit, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, the premise you may not wholeheartedly agree with, and you may not have originated, but it's a place and a space where you can get your message across, and you see their intentions as being something that are sincere and genuine. It's just based on their perspective and their age. Kind of, I don't know what would be a reference to this, of kind of what I would do in reference to hip hop, but like even with what I want to do with Detroit is different through the podcast network. I may not necessarily agree wholeheartedly with everybody's vision, but it's a platform to deliver and distribute things that, like, my number one question when I sat with you, are you passionate about this, and do you really see the vision? Because that's what needs to get out. It's to get in the weeds over the semantics of, it's so many strong black organizations over the years that we can just even see at the same time, because it's like, well, because they don't believe in this platform, brother, I'm gonna just do my own thing. And it's like, okay, we can still have our own organizations, but we can all come together and we can still do certain work together. And then where we disagree, we can part ways. But that point of view and that perspective of a young person can still be used as a helpful tool. Like with what hip hop is. Like hip hop is, to me, a young person's culture. I love it, I've lived it, and I really captured the essence of when I was growing up in it most. But with that being said, some stuff I'm not going to connect with, but I don't think that the music is being made for me. But it's still a point of reference that can touch my community, and I think it has a role in my community that's not just destructive, even though the interpretation can be very destructive for certain fans.
People just gotta get stuck out of their ways and be open. stuff change.
Yes.
Damn, it don't have to be the same thing all the time.
But that tradition. I know you're golfing at it, but the tradition is often what people are holding on to instead of the the battle the Supreme Court has the whole time. Even though to me the Constitution never existed, but they're like, is the Constitution a living document, or should it be interpreted as is? And that is what is a constant discussion with all organizations, even though every organization ain't the Supreme Court, but when you make your bylaws and your mission and your vision, it's like, is this living in reference to the intentionality of what we addressed when we started?
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying? Or is it, to transition with where people are? I was reading a Jet, because I collect old magazines, the other day, and I was thinking to myself, like, damn, Jet transitioned completely to online, right? And trying to stay relevant, but I'm thinking to myself, like, I've never been to Jet online in my life, A. And B, what I went to Jet for wasn't even an online thing. Like, I'm looking at all these new TV shows, and I'd be thinking, like, I probably have like 5 Jets with like Issa Rae on the cover if Jet was still around. Like it was like a point in time that captured an audience that now I can go to different places and get that information. So I have reverence for what Jet magazine meant to me as a black person. And now when my nephew grows up, your son, your daughter, like, they'll be like, well, I'll just go to their Instagram page.
But the problem, I think, is people. I understand tradition is important. I understand old things are important. But a lot of times when you're talking about old stuff and new stuff, or people with old ways of thinking don't know how to, or they don't want to embrace anything that's not new.
But you have to understand, maybe from their perspective, the tradition was a matter of life and death. Imagine trying to be like us back in those days. That now they don't understand, and they don't understand that we can walk around being who we are, and we don't understand how they don't understand us.
No, I know this much.
I just think people need to listen to people sometimes.
Yeah, I would have loved to follow like Red Fox on Instagram. I think that would have been
awesome. Dolomite.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
He imagine.
Richard Pryor on Instagram, he'd be incriminating himself every day.
But imagine like some of the rockers like Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, all them had Instagrams.
Yeah, like it would take away the need for information. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I have the reverence with Jet, but the reverence is more so the institution that I have it to be. But to connect right to the celebrity, it's like, okay,
it loses this mystique. Because to me, I did like not knowing. I did like wondering. And to me, I love, my most favorite thing I love to do is like look at biographies. Like of like, I watched one on Kurt Cobain. I watched a documentary on Jimi Hendrix this weekend. And you know what? I loved hearing the things like, I didn't know that. I didn't, that person was very private, but they like to do this and that. And to me, that's how you really love and learn history. And so, like, why would we need to know? I mean, we know what our president is saying every 5 seconds. We know what Beyonce, where she went to go jet skiing. Like, what is going to be fun about any of that?
But that's today's era, though. That's just how things are. Last Detroit is different question. You could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
After Detroit?
It'd have to be Aretha Franklin.
Okay.
Just out of reverence right now.
Okay.
Malcolm X was from here when?
Malcolm X spent time here in the mosque. He was actually born in Lansing. And that's why Lansing honors his birth. You can name it after Malcolm X.
Malcolm X just to shake it up.
You got that right. The Q line would not be on that street.
No, seriously. Malcolm X are culminating.
Okay. I like it. Where the Q line would be like, oh, like whoa, like where's your office? Malcolm X Boulevard. Oh hell,
I ain't going there.
Oh, I can stop a lot of the revitalization.
No Gilbert building on Malcolm X Boulevard.
That would be so classic Detroit. Like a multi-million-dollar white corporation has their headquarters on Alphabet Boulevard. That is some Detroit shit if it ever existed.
I know, right?
All right, thank both of you. Tune in, listen. Peace.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.